Hey ho, good afternoon. How's it going, people? It's me, Comic of the Crack. Yeah, this is it. Sorry, checking that, making sure it's all good and turned off. And I was in the mood to chat, I guess. Not quite sure. I was watching Damien do a video. He did a video the other day where he was talking about some magazines and comics and stuff. And then he was also kind of talking about making comic videos during this time. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on out there. If you don't know, read a fucking book, read a fucking website, pay attention a little bit. If you don't know what's going on, I don't know what to say. There's a lot of shit going on, and I think some perspective and some time away has been beneficial for sure, to kind of focus on those things and also focus on what I can do as an individual, as a human being living in my city, how I can contribute to my city, how I can contribute through my work, the work that I do with the union, and then just me as an active member of our kind of city. There was a rally that took place for Black Lives Matter. My wife, myself, and my daughter Lillian went. It was the biggest rally in Winnipeg's history. They're saying the numbers were around 20,000 people. It was a hell of an event. It was incredibly impactful. Obviously, the conversations we've always had with the kids, but even more so in this time. We've always had a policy, and that goes for me and my ex-wife when it comes to my son as well, too, that if they're going to ask a question, we don't lie to them, and we answer them like adults. We talk to them like adults. So that's what we've been doing. I mean, my son is now 14 years old, so the conversations with him, of course, are a lot different than they are with my daughter, who's only 6, but we still had the conversations. And we still took her to the event, and, we were as safe as possible. We all wore masks. We participated in the march, which to the organizers credits, because credit where credit is due, the group of women, the group of Black women that organized this event did a fucking outstanding job. They made it very clear that they did not want police presence. There was not police presence. They made it very clear that the community that comes out to this rally was going to police themselves, and that is exactly what happened. We have an organization here in town called the Bear Clan, and it's a group of, I'm not sure exactly what their backgrounds are. I think they come from all different walks of life. They're kind of like a community patrol. So in our north end of our city, they started kind of in that core area doing patrols of their neighborhoods, and they've started to expand. And from what I understand, they would like to expand across Canada. I'm not sure at this time that I'm recording this video exactly what that looks like right in this moment, but they were there as part of the security team, basically, that was watching out for people attending the rally. It went off without any disruptions. There was threats beforehand that there was going to be tear gas and all these kind of things that were used at this event. None of that was the case. We discussed it as a family very, very in depth before we went out, what our strategy was. And I mean, I was saying to my wife that if Winnipeg had a history of that kind of interaction, when it came to protests or marches or rallies, I would be very concerned. We don't have that history here in town, so I wasn't concerned, and it turned out not to be true anyway. I don't know where some of that information was coming from. I don't know if some of that information was put out there just to stop people showing up, or exactly. I didn't dig into it. All I know is that the event went off amazingly. And I mean, again, as an old white guy walking down the road when we kind of went on the march itself, the walk to the Human Rights Museum that we have here in town. The kind of power that I felt, just walking down the road and taking over the roads, and all the support from people that were around who weren't part of the rally was overwhelming. And that's, for me, I can only imagine what it must have been like for people who were affected by this on a daily basis in their life. So I'm really glad that we participated. I'm really proud of our city. I'm incredibly encouraged by, like I said, the Black female organizers who put on this event. I'm incredibly proud that something like that was able to be pulled off, and they have more events that they're going to continue doing. This was just the start of the work that they're going to be doing. So, I mean, if anything, it feels like at this point in time, there actually will be some change, which is great. It's been a long time coming. There's a lot of shit that for some reason has just been tolerated up to this point. And I'm really glad to see people wanting to participate and people wanting to change things. And I mean, again, bringing it down to the microcosm of my specific job, when I personally am seeing newer people come into our industry, you start off as a permittee with our union, and then you work your way up to becoming a full member. A lot of the younger people that I'm seeing coming in as permittees, they're asking some really good questions. They want to be a part of the union itself. They want to attend meetings. They want to know about the collective agreement. They are less tolerant of putting up with people's bullshit. So I'm personally in that kind of small group. I'm seeing a real positive change with a lot of the young people that are coming up. And then I look during times like this, and I look at news, I look at Twitter, I look at the social media, and I'm seeing the same thing. Not to say it's just younger people, but I think it's really encouraging to me that there's a younger generation that wants to participate. Because one of the things that I find disheartening of some people that are closer in and around my age, and again, speaking of the microcosm of our union, of our local, they don't want to participate. It's like pulling teeth to get them to come out to meetings. There is a general, and it's not every single person, there's a general feeling that people want someone else to do the work for them. One of the things that happens in my work is we get called at the office, we get called the union. We are the union, and the union needs to step in and do something, to which I always tell them that I work in the office. The members are actually the union. We work for the members. So what do you want to do about these situations? It's really hard to kind of get that through and to try to get this environment to collaboration. So again, it's just really encouraging that I'm seeing a younger generation that is pushing certain things, and they're wanting to start their own committees, talk about green initiative, talk about young workers' concerns, women's committee, etc., wanting to participate. Hello, Ghostface. Hello, Damien. So that's the thing that I'm taking away from this. And one of the last things I'll say before we kind of move on, I've always been of the opinion that social media will be the absolute fucking crushing downfall of our society. I'm not totally off of that, but the one thing I will say, since all these protests have happened, I'm also incredibly, I think we're incredibly lucky that we have platforms like Twitter. That's the one that I use the most. Twitter is the one that I'm on the most. During this time, I was watching Unicorn Riot, who, if you don't know them, you should check out their Twitter. You should follow them. You should try to support these organizations. The amount of people that are out on the street with their phones, as ridiculous as I always thought it looked in a time like this, holy fuck, are we ever lucky that we have this kind of interaction with people that aren't our, we would never know about. You always just read the writing about the events afterwards, and there's always a skew. You can't fucking skew a live piece of footage I was watching Unicorn Riot when the 3rd Precinct got burnt down. They were in the building in Minneapolis themselves, just kind of talking a little bit about what was going on around them and just showing. So I was there in the building when everybody started evacuating it, and then it was set on fire. So seeing those firsthand accounts of things, I think, is incredibly invaluable in this conversation moving us forward. It's really hard to deny the footage as it's coming out. It's really hard to deny the cops being fucking cunts and treating people like absolute fucking shit when it's video after video after video after video of them behaving in an incredibly damaging way. I don't have time for conversations to the contrary. I just don't. I understand that being a law enforcement officer is fucking difficult. For goddamn sure it is. That does not excuse the behavior that we're faced with on a daily basis. We've always been faced with it. It's hyper focused at this moment, and I think everybody owes it to not only themselves, everybody around them, to be paying attention to this stuff and following it. Early on in this, I was watching a lot, and maybe it was to my downfall a little bit. I had some very, very rough days of I just couldn't look away from it. And my wife said to me very, very early on, "Why are you watching?" And I said, "Because it's fucking important. It's really important to be participating in this. It's really important to see what's going on. It's really important to be educated about what's happening around you. Even if the exact same thing or the level of it isn't happening in your neighborhood, it's still fucking happening, and it's still important to be a part of the conversation to move us forward instead of being the voices that are going to continually try to hold us back." It's been challenging for sure, as I'm sure it has for a lot of people. But I think the important thing to keep focused on with all of this is what can you do in your community? What can you do even if it's just within your family? What can you do even if it's just within your neighborhood? What can you do within your city? What can you do within your province? What can you do within your country? All of that is very, very important. And I think it even more so when it comes to politics, paying attention locally is a big thing. There's out of the rally that we attended, there was a petition that went around to defund the police. It got the signatures that it was needed. Our premier decided to flat out disregard it. Again, which is everybody's right. But when it comes down to us now participating, we know, and hopefully we can become more educated about what particular leaders' platforms are and what their parties stand for, so we can make a more educated choice and again participate. And again, I can't stress it enough, as a white person, having conversations with your kids as early. I often hear, well, you know, they're too young. They're not too young. If they're asking you questions, you owe it to them to answer those questions. Was it an easy conversation with Lillian when I had to tell her that a person of color was killed by the police because, and this is in place because of this inherent racism that's embedded in our society? It's an extremely difficult conversation. Did she understand everything? No, she didn't, but we talked about it. And when she went to the rally, she spent a lot of time in my arms, hugging me with her head down. When we talked to her about it afterwards, how she felt about it, she said that for the most part, she found it a little scary because people were so angry. So we had a conversation about that. They are angry. Do you understand why they're angry? And we kind of talked to her about it, right? So, yeah. And at the end of the day, the shit is upsetting. Full stop. Yeah, so that's what I got. Anyway, so I haven't really been participating. I haven't really been reading. We had our Friday night get together for the first time in a couple of weeks. I haven't, up to that point, I hadn't read any comics whatsoever. We did talk about it in the chat with Dr. Monkeybot and Rasa on Friday. We did talk about the Watchmen HBO series, because that is something that I picked up and we watched, and I'm sure that that show is always going to have an impact, but in this moment, I don't think I've ever seen a better kind of comic related TV show or movie, or just a series in a long fucking time. I was extremely, extremely impressed. They touched on a bunch of subjects, and I thought they handled it really well. They gave the appropriate nods to the original comic, and I was extremely impressed with all of that as well too. It just, I'm not the biggest fan of Bill Maher, but every once in a while he does say something that really resonates. And one of the things that he said, and I'm not going to be able to quote him verbatim, he talks often about, because he's more Democrat left leaning, he says that often the Democrats have a problem with holding two opposing ideas in their head at once. And it's something that I think is really important. And it's something that even extended family over the years, we've had conversations when I'm presented with, well, do you believe this, or do you believe that? There is no this or that. It's a million shades in between. And I think that going forward and having any sort of discussion, it's important to recognize that and talk about those shades. And that's kind of what I felt was really great about Watchmen. Yes, there was some stuff that it's just blatantly, that was fucking shit. You know what I mean? But I think there was some interesting territory kind of talked about in that show. Did they go into extreme depth about every single thing? No, but I thought they handled it incredibly well. It left you thinking. It had moments that were hilarious. It had moments that were absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. It had moments that were unbelievably touching. And then it left on a note of, almost this hopeful, it could be interpreted, whether you're going to look at it as hopeful or if you're going to look at it a little more pessimistic. It depends, right? So if you haven't seen it, strongly recommend that you check it out. It is available for purchase. I don't know what everything is like where you live whenever you're watching this, but things have started. We're kind of in phase 2 here of reopening in the city. So the mall is open again. There's limitations, and each of the individual little stores, it's very strict on how many people can be in, and et cetera, et cetera. But try to get out and try to support your local businesses. If you're going to buy these things, fuck Amazon, fuck Walmart, support your mom and pop businesses, support smaller businesses. The time to be supporting local is even more. It's always been something that needs to be done. We need to be doing it more. Stop supporting these other organizations who don't give a single shit about their employees, who don't give a single shit about anybody else but themselves. Just stop supporting them. Anyway, it's enough preaching. A few things, because I spent half the day at work today in the office. There was a meeting that I was sitting in on for part of it, and it's getting to a point where I do need to see my office computer to be able to access those files and write emails and things instead of doing it on my phone. It's getting more and more challenging to do things on my phone. So while I was there, I figured I would stop by Red River Books in the hopes that I could find the final issue of Black Orchid that I needed. I was hoping to find the last couple of issues of Gangland, and I just wanted to kind of have a look because I haven't been there for a little while. And of course, as usual, I did find some stuff. And there's always a deal. There's always a bit of a discount when you buy stuff from their back issue bins. But one thing that I didn't talk about, I got this quite a while ago now from Jason Hamlin Dealer to the Stars. If you watch the Kayfabe channel, you have heard the name and you've probably seen him on that channel. I follow him on Instagram, and he's been doing something where he's been selling online. I messaged him. There was a book that came up that I really wanted, and I've wanted for a long time. I messaged him in advance to see if he's okay with shipping to Canada, because I know that not a lot of people do that just because it costs so much. I was fortunate enough that he did ship to me in Canada. I talked to him a few times during that, and then after the book showed up, and he was saying that it would be the last time that he would be shipping to Canada just because it does cost so much. Yeah, hell of a guy, incredibly nice guy, has some amazing books. And so I bought Cowboy Hank. It's something that Rez had been talking about so long ago, many years ago. There's not much that exists in English. This is a Spanish book, but the good thing about a lot of these strips, there's a lot of wordless strips, and even the ones that do have dialogue, you don't necessarily always need to know exactly what they're talking about. I'm sure there's some jokes in there that I'm missing, but it's something that when she first spoke about it and I started looking into it, I love the art style. There's a mix of black and white and color work in this one. I love the style. I love the colors. There are some, I don't remember, and I don't have access to it right now. There was some, okay, sounds good, Damien. Have a good lunch. Say hello to Quacking Duck for me. There's some translations that have come out recently, and I don't remember. I'm wanting to say like Secret Prison, but I don't think that's right. I don't remember. Have a look. There has been some English translations that came out, and I believe it was like a newspaper format in English. But it's very strange stuff, almost surreal world, especially when you get to the color work. I'll show you some of the black and white. Here we go. Some of the black and white has a very kind of older Basil Wolverton vibe to some of the illustration, from kind of Powerhouse Pepper and more of Basil's comedy kind of stuff. So that's an amazing collection. As usual, I don't have my glasses on my head. 254 pages of Cowboy Hank. So if you don't know it, have a look, do some digging. Well worth it. Very entertaining stuff. One of the conversations that popped up, because I'm kind of digging into all this Vertigo and things, seeing all these advertisements in the Vertigo magazine or in the Vertigo miniseries that I'm reading, I'll get kind of reminded about stuff that I used to have. One of the things that popped up on my radar recently was Kid Eternity, and the art was done by Sean Phillips. I remember having some Kid Eternity a long time ago, and I don't remember it being Sean Phillips. So when I saw that name, I was really amazed that, holy shit, I'd seen Sean Phillips art and loved Sean Phillips art way before I even registered who he was. Now, the problem came that when I went looking today, Why Not Art? Holy smokes, Tony, how's it going, man? Been a long time. Holy shit. When I went looking today, some Kid Eternity popped up, and the reason I don't remember it being Sean Phillips is the 3-issue miniseries that I'm most familiar with, or the only one that I'm familiar with, not most familiar with, was this, and it's written by Grant Morrison, and it is not Sean Phillips art in this miniseries. So that's why it didn't ring a bell to me. This is Grant Morrison and Duncan Fegredo, Fegredo. And what do we have here for a year? 1991, so pre-Vertigo. And just flipping through these, man, again, there's some books that are really just seared in my memory, and this is definitely one of those series. And again, I just kick myself for getting rid of some of the Vertigo things and some of the comics, or misplacing them, or I don't even know what happened to some of this stuff. I regret kind of getting rid of it. So it's nice to be able to find these few books again, to be able to read them again, especially as now that I'm more familiar with some of the writers, and I'm a lot more familiar with the history of some of these books and some of these publishing companies, and that sort of thing. There's a new appreciation for this. Thanks, Tony. Phasing Player, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. That's awesome. You're able to catch a live one. I just started watching one of your videos, and forgive me, I don't remember. Is it Sierra Madre game that you just got recently? The original kind of hand done. I started watching that video. I haven't watched the rest of it yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And every time I see you, or every time we do chat, I am also looking forward to After Pablo, when you finally get to that game. No pressure, though. Tony, no, I haven't really been picking up many underground comics lately. I don't know how often. Forgive me, Tony. I know that you've been kind of back and forth with YouTube. So I don't know how much you've seen of some of my videos and things. There was a period of time where I was finding a lot of those underground comics in lots on eBay for really, really good prices. Those days don't exist anymore. I still do searches every once in a while on eBay, and it's very, very rare that I find affordable lots. I was just really fortunate to find some big lots of books ending up, even after shipping, buying for about $2 a piece. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen much anymore. A lot of the undergrounds that I see online are pretty expensive, so I don't often buy them. I'll still find them locally, but I mean, at the end of the day, I've got 4 short boxes filled with underground comics, and I've got comics all around me. So it's my reading and my collecting over the years have drastically changed. I'm getting into stuff and I'm just chasing that down. So Eclipse Comics, for example, right now I'm really in a Vertigo Comics kick. So I'm picking up miniseries and reading those. I'm getting more into European stuff, so I'm trying to pick up those when I see them, which here in Winnipeg doesn't happen very much. Yeah, Lords of the Sierra Madre first edition, and After Pablo is coming eventually. Excellent. Yeah, no, Tony, you haven't been for a long time. I don't know. When was the last time you did a video, Tony? It's probably been years, right? So I'm really going to where my interests at that moment lead me. And especially during this lockdown, I've had a chance to read a hell of a lot of stuff, barring the last couple of weeks, as we just spoke about. But it's been great to kind of sit and read a bunch of comics and stuff that, you always end up getting a big stack of stuff, especially when it's cheap and they go onto the to read pile. Unfortunately, the to read time doesn't come as often as the opportunity to buy a bunch of cheap comics does. So that's been fun. And doing these weekly hangouts with Rasa and Dr. Monkeybot have been great for that as well. So we can sit and discuss some of these books together. That's been really rewarding. So anyway, that was Kid Eternity. And then on the Vertigo tip, I went to visit the other shop in town that's right by my office, Comic Factory. And for the longest time, he's had bagged miniseries collections for sale for really, really cheap. So I had to flip through those and found a couple of more Vertigo miniseries. So this is one called Egypt, The Book of the Remains by Peter Milligan and Glyn Dillon from 1995. And it's a 7-issue miniseries. And I think it was about $7 for this entire miniseries. And that's also the thing that I'm loving about Vertigo right now, is the opportunity to read these miniseries, grab a whole chunk at once. I don't know how. It's not that I'm opposed to longer series. It's just this format has been working for me a lot more these days. And honestly, there's been some real, pardon me, there's really been some gems within these miniseries. And I mean, look at that cover. There's a huge Mobius riff right there for sure. No, Tony, I did live in the area that Costin Bromstar and DaCosta, where they live. I used to live in Kitchener-Waterloo. We lived in Waterloo. So I know, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know the specific warehouse itself, but I'm a province over from them, and I haven't been back to visit Kitchener-Waterloo in a hell of a long time. I've still got a friend that lives there, him and his wife and son. I haven't been to see them. Well, actually, there's still a couple of people I know from there, but I haven't been back. The closest we've got was back to Toronto, which is approximately an hour and a half outside of Kitchener-Waterloo. But I would love that warehouse. I still talk to DaCosta on Twitter and seeing the Warehouse of Love haul that he comes back with. Incredible books in that place, I tell you. And there's issue number 7. So that'll be a fun one. Well, I hope, anyway. And there were 2 miniseries, 3 issues each, from 2000 and then 2001. It's Garth Ennis and Carlos Esquerra. This is Adventures in the Rifle Brigade, which looks incredible. Really great covers. The interior, I'll show you the interior art as well. Looks good. I mean, yeah, I'm again, it's all packed in one shot. It's cheap as all hell. I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll have a look inside here too. Let's find a good page. Yeah, there you go. Perfect page. Beautiful. DaCosta is doing great. Are you on? I know you're on Instagram, Tony. Are you on Twitter as well too? If not, you should sign up for a Twitter account. I thought you were on Twitter at one point. You should sign up, and we're all still there. We all still chat. All us old timers from YouTube comics. So then there was another 3-issue miniseries from October 2001 to January 2002. Same creators, Garth Ennis, Carlos Esquerra, Adventures in the Rifle Brigade, Operation Bollock. So there you go. And then there's those 3 issues there. Again, with just amazing, amazing covers. That's it for Vertigo. Just a few more things. I haven't yet. I have not completed my Daredevil run. Of the first 300 issues, I'm still looking for issues 1 to 8 of the actual volume 1. I've got reprints of all of those issues, and then I'm missing issue 111. So I'm just missing 9 issues, and then I've got from 1 to 300. I've got up to issue number 300. And that's something else I read recently too. I don't have it with me here, or do I? Yeah, I do. So I'm pretty damn close, Tony. Pretty damn close. But honestly, I'm not pushing too much for those 1 to 8 because the prices are, it's just expensive. So I'm fine with the reprints. The whole point for me was to have the books to kind of read them. So that's been really good. And I just finished reading these 2 volumes. I won't talk about it too much here. We'll probably talk about it on Friday. I think it's something that Adam has read as well too. I'm not sure if Rasa has read this as well. I enjoyed it. I had some problems with it. And again, I think it might be because of the time right now. Hello. I didn't finish the Lyra. No, I got some more components in and I soldered those. And then I placed another order. It took a long time for some of the components to come in because of the pandemic, a lot of stuff was on back order, and they just weren't getting shipments of components in either. So just recently, I revisited the Muff Wiggler forum where people had put out their Mouser shopping carts, as well as links to other websites to buy components, like very specific components. So I started placing some orders there. So now I'm just waiting for the shipment of those. I'm hoping last few things to come through. I just placed a new Mouser order the other day. There's 2 items on there that I have to wait a couple of weeks for them to come in, but I'm not as worried about it now. So man, I'm really hoping that comes soon. It was really great to kind of revisit it and spend I think I spent, a good afternoon just going through all the components that I have, putting aside the ones that I don't need. Cause when I was doing the order for the components, I was ordering more than I needed, just to have extras for any potential future projects or whatever. So, I'm pretty damn close though. The next stage is going to be building a case for it. Once I get everything kind of put together and put on the boards and sort of put together, I want to give it some testing first before I kind of encase it and put it in its final home. But I am getting there. I don't know if I'll be doing many videos about it. I'm going to try to do one more video, but I want to wait until I'm at a stage where there's going to be a lot more to show. Because right now, all there is to show is just me soldering on more capacitors and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing thrilling to kind of sit and talk about. Tony, we usually meet on Fridays. I'm Central time here, 3:30 p.m. my time, which I believe is at 8:30 p.m. UK time. So 3:30 for me. I'm not sure what that is for you in New York, right? I think you guys are an hour or 2 ahead, so 5:30-ish your time, probably. I brought in a bunch of books to trade from stuff that I'm getting rid of as I continually thin out the comics, things that I don't want anymore. Greg at one of the flea markets, great guy. I've talked about him many times on this channel. He gave me an exceptionally good deal for the stuff that I had given him. I just looked at his list recently and picked a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the things that I want to get more of are from Vortex Comics, which was a Canadian company. Recently on the Kayfabe channel, Ho-Che Anderson, they had an interview with him. What an incredible guy. What a great interview. Really, really interesting stuff. I'm not very familiar with a lot of his books. I do know some of them. Pop Life, I think, was one that I had, although I looked in the boxes and I can't find it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I've got it, but I also might not have it anymore. And then he did the King graphic novel. And then Godhead is his newest work, which I just saw in the bookstore the other day, but I didn't pick it up yet. So he was talking about working at Vortex Comics, which was a Canadian publisher. And one of the books that I've always heard of, and I've never actually read, is Mr. X. And I feel like I've maybe done myself a disservice by not going for it, because Seth does some art in it. And then also in one of the other ones, Bill Sienkiewicz does some art. And who's doing the covers here? William Kaluta does covers, so there's the cover for that issue. So I'm really excited to get into this. I've got, what do I have here? Issue number 2, number 7, number 8, 9, 10, and 13. So I'm gonna start in on them, even though I don't have right from the beginning. I'm going to give these a read. But I mean, it goes from black and white into color. I don't know how many issues there were total. I do know that then it got, I don't know if there was new stories published by other companies. Tony, maybe you know, or if it was just reprinting this material. But either way, I'm excited. And also on that, how that tied in with Greg is that on his independent comics list, he had some other Vortex as well as some Eclipse titles that I have never seen anywhere else. So I'm hoping I can pick that stuff up this weekend from him. I'm very, very excited to get some more of this stuff. And I mean, one of the things that's happened, Tony, since you haven't been around for a long time, is that I've over the last handful of years, I've just really rediscovered that it's with the independent and the underground comics where my love of comics is the strongest. I like the mainstream stuff, don't get me wrong. I'll read some of it, but I honestly, once I abandoned that pull list, that weekly pull list, all those years ago, it was one of the better decisions that I've made. Not that I wasn't getting pleasure out of reading those new comics. It's just not the same as when I flipped through some of these old independent 80s, 90s, 2000s, even modern independent stuff. I don't know, man. This stuff excites me a lot more than following the latest exploits of the new #1 issue that is going to present a brand new world, and et cetera, et cetera. Oh, look at that Sienkiewicz cover on this one. Really great. Fooled me there for a sec. It has shades of Ted McKeever in that style there. And then also just the amount of old stuff that's out there. Just because it's not coming out right now doesn't mean that this shit isn't just fucking incredible, right? So, and then I showed this one already. Yeah, and I'm not as familiar with this era of Seth. I know his self-published works and that sort of thing a lot better than I do this. So I'm also looking forward to reading and seeing some Seth art in kind of a more traditional kind of comic form. Not that his other stuff isn't traditional comics, but I think you know what I mean. And then also in the bins, very excited to find these two, the last two that I needed for this miniseries. From Eclipse, Miracle Man, Apocrypha, books #1 and #2. Very excited to find these. These have been on the list for a long time, and I don't see these anywhere. And again, with even this Eclipse, Mr. Miracle Man stuff, normally when I do see it, it's pretty damn expensive. So from what I understand, this series was other creators and their take on the Miracle Man character. So in this one, we have Kelly Jones, Stan Woke, Norm Brayfogle, Matt Wagner. And then in this issue is Neil Gaiman, Buckingham Buziak, Patricia Smith, and more. So that's very exciting to finish that off. I'm really looking forward to digging into these 2 issues. I think these are kind of the top of the pile now that I have all 3 of that miniseries. And then second last, there was a couple of creepy magazines with Corbin covers that I just couldn't pass on. October 1980 and January 1982. This one stands out to me because this cover is fucking incredible. Because this pose on this guy is out of control. Absolutely love that cover. I haven't really given these a flip through yet, so I don't know if he has a story inside these particular issues or if he just did the cover. Doesn't matter either way. These creepies are usually a lot of fun just because of the variety of artists you get. I'm not seeing him in this one. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like he's in this one. That's fine. The Killing, author Roger McKenzie, illustrators Leo Duranona and Alex Toth. So that's a cool one right there. I don't have many issues of Creepy itself. Maybe 2, you know what I mean? So I would love to get the Corbin collected hardcover Creepy work, though. Would be great. So that's that one. And then the other Corbin Creepy cover anyway. And then finally, something that I've been eyeballing. Dr. Monkeybot turned me on to Book Depository. Is that what that one is? Where you can order books, manga, hardcovers, etc., etc., and they offer free shipping around the world for us here in Canada and, you know, in other parts of the world. That's usually the thing that kills us, is getting these things shipped to you. Everybody knows, or those of you who do know about Spiro.geek from New Zealand, that was the biggest thing that I think killed him and finally had him abandon the hobby to some degree. Just the sheer price of getting comics sent to you just doesn't make it easy to want to explore and support some of these creators. So that website has been incredible, and I've gotten quite a few Cinebook stuff from Book Depository. This is one that has been on my list. They have the individual volumes, but I saw this today for $12, and it's the books combined, and it's a Dark Horse reprint. Dark Horse and SAF Comics. Trilogy USA, Herman and Eve. So Herman did Jeremiah that I love. I've got a couple of Jeremiah books. This one looks incredible. Three cops, three places, 3 decades, one single fate. And just from looking through this book very quickly, I don't think that fate is a good one. Which, man, I can't wait to dig into this. I absolutely, the European artists, yeah, I don't know, man. What can I say that I haven't said a million times before? The European artists' work really resonates with me a lot. I love the look of this book. I cannot wait to sit with this. And again, being here in Manitoba, this stuff just doesn't pop up every day. Even the bookstores and things don't carry these reprints. It's just not something. I don't know whether that's because they don't want to take a chance. They don't think it'll sell. I don't know. I'm sure that there's a very good reason. Well, I mean, part of it is you can't carry everything always. You can't have your bookstore filled with every single book that a publisher has put out. So when I find this kind of stuff, I'm your guy. I'm going to buy this shit in a heartbeat and give it a shot. So I'm really excited about that. And that's pretty much it. There are too many series on Mr. X. I think it runs 4 series, and in each there are 14, 11, 4, and maybe 4 on the last. Okay. I have some of the earliest books. I love that Eerie and Creepy Mags. Dying to get back on the tube to showcase my collection, but Instagram is so quick and easy. Yeah, Instagram is really quick and easy, but the thing that keeps me with YouTube and has just kept me with it, and I don't know, to the point where I don't see myself stopping, is exactly this. This kind of interaction with people is so much fun. And, you know, I love this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I love these books. I love kind of giving exposure and talking about some of these books that maybe don't get discussed as much. Although now with cartoonist kayfabe in full swing, there's more of us talking about this stuff, which is fantastic. Comic Board, thanks very much. I appreciate it. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks very much for tuning in. Oh, I also picked this up too. The Revenger, Charles Forsman's Revenger Volume 1. The art is incredible in this too. I don't know if you know this book, Tony. Looks fantastic. There's a couple of volumes of this collected, I think, right now. So I figured I'd give this a shot to see what it was like. A very kind of 80s indie black and white feel to the art. Unfortunate that that's like that, but there you go. So yeah, that'll be fun. So if you're around, tune in to Dr. Monkeybot's channel on Friday if you want to see us talk shit about comics. It's always a good time. They're good people. And again, like this, there's always some great people in the chat, and it's good to kind of all of us sit and talk together. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon, yeah?